America, inventors of freedom and home of obesity.
Full of amazing cultures, sports, cities, and sights to see.
Don't forget about freedom.
But being honest here, the United States of America is truly a magnificent place with such an amazing and interesting history.
Yeah, America has a very unique history, unlike any other country.
Today we'll be talking about the American Revolution, how it all started, the problems, and what were the consequences of the revolution.
If it wasn't for the revolution, we'd be drinking tea by the fireplace instead of drinking beer on our front porches with our shotguns.
Andrew and I created 6 stages of the American Revolution to identify the ups and downs. The stages are
problem, solution, spark, leader, violence, and consequences.
Moving on, the American Revolution took place around the years of 1775 and 1783. Well, you can technically say that the revolution ended in 1781, but we'll get more into that later. To better understand the revolution, we need to step back just a couple of years. One of the reasons why the American Revolution happened was because of the French and Indian War, and the events that took place after that.
It is also called the 7 Years' War.
Dude, nobody calls it that, maybe in Canada, England, and everywhere else, but not in America. So, the French and Indian War was pretty big. It was basically England and French fighting for land. Also, the British hated Native Americans, so he wanted to get rid of them. England won the war, obviously, with the colonists' help, but there was a huge problem. The war was pretty expensive. England was in deep debt, about 147 million pounds, which is pretty heavy.
Just no.
The only way the British thought they can gain money and wipe away the debt was to put taxes on a lot of things, especially items being imported and exported from the Americas. This was the problem of the Revolution. Because of this, America asked British if they could represent themselves in the Parliament, and the British said no. That was where the famous slogan came from, no taxation without representation. The fact that the colonists could not represent themselves in the Parliament really ticked them off.
The first act was the Stamp Act. This act was important because the British needed money from the colonists to pay for the French and Indian War. Colonists were required to pay tax on every piece of printed paper used. For example, ship papers, legal documents, licenses, newspapers, other publications, and even playing cards were taxed. They taxed everything they used on a regular basis. This pissed off the colonists even more. They wanted to be part of the war, and now they have to basically pay for it. After the colonists complained about it and even had riots about this, another act was passed on by the Parliament, the Quartering Act.
This act required all colonists to house and feed the redcoats, which are the British soldiers, at their own expense. This increased the tensions between the colonists and the British. Everybody knows about the Boston Tea Party, right? Where the crazy people dressed as Native Americans went aboard a ship and dumped 342 chests of tea worth 90,000 pounds into the harbor. Yeah, that also made the British pretty furious. Just to point out, it was not just tea that got taxed in the act. It was also sugar, glass, paint, and much more. This was the spark of the revolution. The revolution started to heat up as the first battle took place on April 18th, 1775.
That was when that cool dude rode on his horse to yell at everybody that the British are coming.
By cool guy, you mean Paul Revere? Yeah, he was cool. But little known fact, he never yelled out, "The British are coming." What he actually said was, "The regulars are coming out." Most colonists still considered themselves to be British at that time, so the phrase would not have made much sense. Anyways, Paul Revere was sent to warn Adams and Hancock, towns, and other buildings by the road that the British troops were heading from Boston to Lexington, preparing for war. When the Battle of Lexington ended, 8 Americans lay dead or dying, and 10 others were wounded. Only 1 British soldier was injured, but the American Revolution had begun.
Because of early battles, the colonists knew that things would get worse. So on July 4th, 1976, the United States wrote the Declaration of Independence, which basically told the British that the colonists wanted independence from Great Britain. The documents that really declared America as an independent country was the Constitution of the United States, which was written in 1787. This was the solution of the revolution, because the colonists had to do so in order to get what they wanted. Continuing on, there were so many other battles in the Revolution, and not every single one should be talked about, but there were some really fantastic battles.
For example, the battle at Princeton, New Jersey. After about 6 months of running away, Washington moved his army across the ice-cold Delaware River on Christmas Eve of 1776 and surprised Hessian troops in Trenton, New Jersey. Washington captured more than 900 Hessian troops and 1,200 weapons without losing a single man. That's pretty impressive. Washington then followed up with a victory over the British a few days later at Princeton, New Jersey. George Washington is an example of a leader in the Revolution. He made many legendary moves that really changed the Revolution.
Another example is the Battle of Saratoga, which took place in 1777. British gentleman Johnny Burgoyne led a British army into New York and New England from Canada, while the British army, already in New York, sailed down to capture Philadelphia. It turned out to be a disaster for the British, continually harassed by American troops and running low on food and supplies. Burgoyne's army lost 2 battles near Saratoga. On October 17, 1777, the British army of nearly 6,000 men surrendered. News of the American victory helped convince France to enter war on the American side. This was a huge advantage for the Americans, gaining more men and weapons. The last major battle of the Revolution was the battle at Yorktown. In May 1781, things began to fall into place with the French allies. Together with 2 French fleets, French and American armies converged on Yorktown and attacked the British army. The British, meanwhile, mishandled 2 fleets of their own and were unable to come to Cornwallis' rescue. On October 19, 1781, Cornwallis surrendered his army of 8,000 men. Well, that was a lot of information. This marks the end of the violence part of the Revolution.
It took some time, but between 1781 and 1783, there were small battles taking place, but nothing big. The American military was recovering from the major battle, about 50,000 people dead and wounded. But finally, on September 3rd, 1783, representatives of Great Britain and the United States came to Paris to sign the peace treaty known as the Treaty of Paris. It took place in Paris because the nations that supported the American cause had to sign it as well, like France, Spain, and the Dutch Republic. This was part of the consequences of the Revolution. We'll talk more about that later.
So, that is how it ended, I guess?
That was pretty awesome, right?
But was it really a revolution?
Of course it was. The American Revolution followed a pattern like every other revolution. There was a problem, which people took action to resolve it, but it led to war and victory. Of course, in the American Revolution, there was no overthrow of the government, but there were still wars. The American Revolution can be classified as a revolution because of these aspects. A revolution is essentially a change from the people that took time and effort to accomplish.
So you're saying it can be classified as a revolution?
Yeah. Did you not listen to me at first?
Sorry, Chica, you talk too much.
Here, let me repeat myself. The American Revolution followed the path.
I get it.
Okay, man, chill.
Let's talk about the important legacies the American Revolution had.
Sure, the Revolution was really grand for America. One of the main long-term consequences was the independence to a new country, and also the birth of it. The United States of America moved on to a different type of government, democracy. This allowed the people to have a voice in their country's decisions. The new way of government really helped America recover and become a great country.
Another long-term consequence was France regaining 2 colonies for themselves. England had also lost all of their colonies and land in America. This had great effect in dramatically increasing their national debt. England's overall image as an empire was affected. Their reputation had taken a great blow and shown their weakness. This is a legacy that continues to this day. Thanks for watching.
Ciao.